We waited for it. All right. So, hey guys, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the Novotalks. In the first episode of season three, we honored to us Alexander from the Canada, the director of security. And today, as you know, we are talking about the offensive impact in the future of cybersecurity and talking a lot about offensive part of this section. So, Alexander, if you want to say anything to our uh, viewers,
Audience.
we are here.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. Hi, Nima. Thank you for having me on the talk. This is going to be a great discussion because first of all, I'm happy to speak with a red teamer, so someone really in the field as well. And our if we can summarize what's happening in the world right now, like everything's becoming digital. So the red teaming is just growing its scope to unlimited part of our lives, and I think that show is not going to stop soon. Even if you have AI, automation, and all these things, there is a lot of work to do. I mean, Ed, we will see during the discussion and where you want to go on that. But you see, like, you do red teaming on the field, and when you see that, when you get on an engagement and you reach in an organization and you see so many low hanging fruits already, and between that reality gap and the fancy AI automation stuff which raise the attack surface, there is a lot to cover today, I think. So yeah, and for the one who do not know me, I'm Alexandre Blanc. I share a lot of awareness in cybersecurity on LinkedIn, like 70 plus thousand followers, and more than 25 years in the field. From I started in IT and then security in both industrial and for civil and military stuff in my background. So I've seen many, many, many things like industrial system, IT systems, and any kind of attack surface you can think of. So yeah, that's about it.
Very well, very well. Again, this is our honor to us you in the first episode of season three. So, let's get in this. Let's deep dive into this section, into this topic. Alexander, can you provide an overview about an offensive security involves in the recent years?
So what we've seen, on the offensive side, which I'm not doing engagement myself, I do collaborate with organizations that do that, and I recommend offensive pen testing for organization as well. And what we see, nowadays is a big shift in the scope of work that is happening, and also a misunderstanding with organization and how their attack surface is actually exposed and what they have to test in their control, in their security controls. And another point that we see is there is a growth in the demands for pen testing, security assessment, and the red teaming work because the regulation is growing as well and put like the security control validation as a key point to be compliant. So basically, I see compliance driving a lot of pen testing and offensive security effort on the private sector. And then, I mean, because if we speak about offensive security, we cannot ignore about the adversaries and what's happening in the like cyber field. And people don't like to call it cyber war, but kind of the cyber field when we see all the incidents, like all the groups like China, Russia, India, and all these groups that fight together online. Well, that's also something that we need to consider because there's a professionalization on the threat actors that are very more efficient, and therefore validating your security control, doing the pen testing, working in offensive security is something that has to be done. And finally, the last point, because we have to wrap that, and that's a question that come often in discussion online. Shall we ourselves hack the enemies, hack the adversaries, with offensive security? And there is a lot of legal consideration around that, and I will not recommend any private person or any private organization to engage in such activities. This is more like a state-based decision because this is kind of a, conflict between forces that you should avoid. On the cybersecurity side of things, we will focus on the defense side of things. Although you can do an attack, but against yourself or your own assets. That's totally fair to validate your controls. So that will be my summary of the situation and the growth.
So, yeah, as we going into the next years, recently, almost the all of everything's in our lives just transforming into digital version, and yeah, from stealing, from ransom wars. Or even geopolitical and diplomacies are getting into the cyber attacks. So, in the cyber attacks, what do you see as a key trends shaping the future of cybersecurity in the recent years?
So what we see, I mean, we saw that in the news is more group are targeting industrial systems, and they are grouping their attacks against critical assets by kind of vertical groups, like more targeting the energy side, more targeting the financial side. We see these groups. I mean, if people don't know about MITRE ATT&CK website, they can see the threat actor. They do not update that very often, but the groups and the way they do with the technique and procedure they use against organization and vertical is very interesting to understand the threat landscape. So and so what we see is like motivated attacker that are financially motivated on the side because they target financial sector or try to get ransom you were speaking about, but also some financially motivated because they get paid. It's like kind of mercenaries against targets to either break trust into technology innovation of a certain country or certain area, or to affect the economical market as well. I've been involved in many incident response in the past, and some key things that we see is that the offensive approach of security is a lever that is used to affect the transaction, either to lower the value of a target or to actually totally break a transaction or a merge of company for strategical reasons. So any change, anything that's happening today, that has been happening, and that will happen in the future, is bringing a lot of risks in regard to disruption from these offensive behaviors and attacks on the organizations.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So, based on your talks, we have the three different and the main view in this cybersecurity. One is from the inside of company. Uh, as an director of security or CISSP, CISO, and other peoples should set an strategy and the best tooling, best protocols, security protocols to defend them against some attacks. But in the other side, in the more important from the financial victor for the attackers is going to be geopolitical. So in this part, the other vector is coming into our section means supply chain attack, and it's very dangerous from the companies or financial and etc. So what do you think about that? How can we defend a company or the government from the supply chain attacks?
Yeah, so there is a good thing, that's still true today in cybersecurity. It's about know what you have. And that thing, knowing what you have, it's about, usually inventory, know your assets, but also it involves knowing your supply chain and knowing that you have visibility on the integrity of the supply chain. We saw in the news lately with conflict that supply chain of any connected asset can be exploited to trigger, even kinetic attacks, because the cyber right now is connecting to the real world. So when I was speaking about energy industry and you have connected system, there was a news like in this week, I think, about the valve management of gas cistern, like natural gas or something that were exposed on the internet. So this is really exploitable, and that could trigger like physical impact on the life of people. We saw a trapped remote radio that exploded all the way, and that was through supply chain attack. So that means that big challenges are coming because either organization had already control in place over the supply chain, but that was more about knowing where it come from, knowing how to manage vulnerabilities, to be notified about vulnerability in the system. But right now it's evolving into the threats and the risk that are added to the existing supply chain. It's quite a bigger difference. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, there was a scandal about the Supermicro servers that were tampered. Like the
Yeah, yeah,
motherboard
yeah.
will arrive that was delivered to Amazon or some cloud provider, and they had to run through X-rays on the motherboards to verify that the actual soldering was not impacted by any tampering. So when you think about that, I mean, no organization today have an X-ray machine to check if the machine they receive is actually containing any kind of add-on or
Yeah.
modification. And the same way we had the process in the digital world, like you have a checksum of a file that you download, and you have to verify that the file you downloaded has actually a matching checksum with what it was supposed to be, to avoid a supply chain issue or in transport attack or whatever man in the middle iteration. But and when you see that in the field, it was barely applied, except in a military grade or very highly regulated industry. They will actually apply and verify, but most SMBs will not even verify what they download. They rely on the antivirus, on the endpoint detection and response to do the job, and people don't take the time to do that. So right now we speak about the same kind of process that was not applied just on the simple files, to be applied on the physical assets or anything that comes from the supply chain, software supply chain and physical supply chain. So there are a lot of coming challenges ahead, and I think that the regulation that are coming in place will help, because if organizations are not forced to do it, they might not realize or might not do it because they think the risk is not affecting them. That's always the same approach. They think it's not, they will not be in target, no one's going to run after them. But what we see is the scale of attacks rely on that mindset to spread and build network of victims that are either used to do a massive impact on the economy, or to use them as a relay for major attacks. Like, we saw the supply chain, the SolarWinds stuff, that was actually a big target to reach the customer of this company. So that's the kind of thing that we need to enforce. And sadly, the more we get connected stuff, IoT, connected cars, I know, I don't know, I mean, you see there is a big trend about the EVs, electrical vehicle, and all the connected cars. I'm scared of that, because I think as consumers, knowing that, I'm in the field, in the security field, and knowing that we see what we see, I would like to have the ability to pull the plug physically to make sure that the car I drive is not connected, because I don't want that to be exposed, because I don't trust manufacturer to patch. I don't trust them. And right now we do not have the ability to do so as a consumer. So on my end, I stick to old cars. But the metaphor I want to bring into that is that, will the organization tomorrow have the ability, the capability, the knowledge, and the willingness to review the supply chain, the attack surface from A to Z, to make sure they do not jeopardize the kind of information they handle? If this is, their own information created from scratch, that's fine. But what happened is that companies right now collect a lot of data of third party, of consumers, of you, of partners, sellers, and they keep this information. And even if they have a proper governance, it's still running in the systems. And the issue is that I'm afraid they don't take proper care of that. So that's a big deal to me, because I want the data of everybody to be protected, because there is enough already to handle with the attack surface that is ever growing, that we should not worry about the bad practice and the misconfiguration stuff that happen in organizations.
So, based on your opinion about this question, I saw many times in your posts that you using a phrase "connected equal to hacked,"
Yes.
you know, and this in the offensive part of cybersecurity. I want to ask you about this question. Does this offensive part or offensive teams have any boundaries or limitations? Because if even we disconnect the device from the network, or even completely from the internet, and isolated in about in a room or somewhere, uh, it is still vulnerable to air gap attacks. So, what should we do when we're facing with this offensive teams?
So yeah, so many points you raised at this. First of all, there are the known unknown, the thing that we don't know, and we know that we don't know them. So that's basically
Yeah,
potential malwares, potential attacks, and stuff like that. But the worst is the unknown unknown, the thing that we don't know about, but we don't know that we don't know about them. So when we don't know at all about that, we cannot do a proper threat modeling, and we cannot do a proper risk mitigation. So in your question about the air gapped infrastructure, let's say you build something, you want to run that information treatment out of anything. This is air gap, no network connection. Well, how would you know that your assets that you picked to run that job is not actually coming with a, I don't know, an eSIM card and an LTE modem inside, and that there is an actual backdoor? Even if you did not connect it, that thing might
yeah,
still be connected. So that's a big question. And I mean, there are controls. I mean, this is extremely sensitive. You will have like radio frequency analyzer and any radiomagnetic analyzer tool that will tell you, hey, that thing it's broadcasting a signal, or stuff like that. Or is it using an embedded power line data connection? And did you actually secure properly the power line where you actually get the power for your device, or is it escaping through the ground and there is another communication device in the building outside? That's all kind of attacks that we have to account for. But what matters is what's at stake. This is all in the risk evaluation. How much should we spend? How much should we dig into the threat is depending on what we want to protect. So if, I mean, when you speak about air gap system that can still be attacked, we saw like the exploitation of Wi-Fi as a sonar technique with the now the modern Wi-Fi chipset. They can actually be used for 3D modelization of a space. So that's
yeah,
very interesting. Or we saw like radio frequency analysis going through the walls and being able to display what was typed, or even the sound frequency on a keyboard that allowed to be keylogging from the micro vibration in the air on specifically spied operation. So it's all a matter of what are you trying to protect, what are you actually expecting as an operational capability from these systems, and the threat modeling and the effort you're going to put to defend them is going to be according to this. We cannot block everything. And I say often, like, if it goes on the computer, on the internet, it's going to leak, that for sure. If it's on the computer, how do you bring what you have to work on that computer? Because the attacker will know that you will run that stuff on the air gap system, but they know as well that you need to bring the data in and out. So they will use this kind of path to target you as well. And again, that's the threat modeling option. And again, you ask how to protect from that. The
yeah,
good old layered security approach, like onion security with multiple layer and overlapping security control, is still the way to go. It's just that you have to assume that things may happen, and you have to put control in place to actually compensate these risks in an acceptable manner. I speak as an ISO guy, like, the guy is very theoretical. But that's, you run your what if scenario. And I've been involved in some brainstorming. One challenge was running a data center that you could not detect from space or on the power grid, or you should not know that these workloads were running or where, so you could not target them. Because if you want to target a strategical target, you will go, thermal analysis, power grid consumption analysis, fiber internet connectivity. These are all metrics and attributes that can help you pinpoint hidden data centers. And if most likely you have all the attributes that match a data center behavior on the grid and on the connection, and it's not on the map, most likely it's some kind of sensitive crap. So, so, and if I would be an adversary, that's how I would just triangulate and spot my targets. So you have to make sure that you cannot achieve that. And you can use deception. There are many ways to combine. And that's all about the threat modeling. But when we speak about that, we are disconnected from the reality of most businesses today. They they don't think or consider they are a target in this kind of stuff, like air gap technology. Who's using that? Military, I mean, advanced medical research on super secret new COVID crap, maybe.
Yeah.
But so these guys are not like the day-to-day or the traditional businesses. Yet, the threat modeling that we get from this is still something that generates controls that could be considered for the regular operation of businesses. It depends. So yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah. I uh, I completely agree with all you told about this limitation or a gap attacks. But we want to deep dive into this part that uh, how offensive teams can go more like dirtier and darker when they want to attack in some company or targeting a system. So they do anything to just get an access or a little initial access to that system, and it is enough for them to enter to the system and exploit that.
So one thing is, first of all, when there is an engagement like that, there are boundaries in which the team is supposed to, unless you get like anything accepted, which can open many doors. Obviously, these teams will always target the weakest point, which is usually the human side, and it comes with social engineering. And that's the usual case that we see. If you have no limits, you can really, I would lever the human vulnerability side, and I will trick human into being a lever into the organization. That would be one thing. It can be, I mean, depending of the engagement. I saw a statistic. It was like a couple, like 5 years ago, that any employee of an organization was willing to give up its credential for like $150. So when you have that metric in mind, I mean, you come to an employee and say, and you look, if you do a bit of open source intelligence, OSINT search, and you go on Glassdoor about you have your target organization, and you see in which department there is the most complaint, like the managers suck or it was not easy to achieve the career. That's the typical department that you're gonna target to get your access, because you want employee that are fed up with management and that are willing already in the mind of like, I don't agree with the organization, blah blah blah. And if you take this psychological bias from the people, you know that this is where you're gonna have most likely a lever with corruption, money, pressure, sometimes even for free. If you just adhere to a proper psychological approach, psyops kind of crap, not using technology on this side, but just human social engineering trick, like you just basically show empathy to the person, understand the frustration, let them talk, share some drink, and gather information. And then you may end up with enough information to build stuff. If, let's say, I don't know, your strategy and what you have in your toolbox, but all the pen testing company have a lot of backdoors, asset, land turtle, whatever crap you can hook into the network of an organization. So sometimes it's not about getting the credential of the person, but getting a person to invite you in-house. And then you can do your reconnaissance, and then and also it depends on the delay. Sometimes it has to be quick, and then if this is quick, this is a lot of money because you're gonna go to the person, say 50 grand, I want your access, but we never exist. This is a hidden account. That's the shorter it is, the most money it costs. And if you do not have time limitation, then you can build a trust relationship. You can just get your foot inside one at a time. First reconnaissance, you go, you analyze how it goes, and then you get in. So, but you do the engagements. So, but that means one thing: with time, effort, and proper resource, everything can be breached. There is no way you get out of the system. And we saw that, in the US, there was a lot of Chinese spies that got spotted in universities and in business. They were working in research and development, and they were pulling data. I say Chinese, but whatever country. That's just the one that I reminded was in the news, in the mainstream. And this is just an example of dedication and time over time. Is showing how you can get into an organization and pull the data. So now, what's the goal of the exercise? If you do offensive security approach, what's your final goal? What's your flag? What are you gonna, what are you looking at running after? Because you have to put some limitation. In the end, there is no real limit. You can destroy the organization, you can steal, you can hijack, you can manipulate. There are many options. So it's just about knowing what's your final goal, and then you're gonna hit it. So, but from a defense standpoint, because we speak about offense, all of this behavior should raise flags. and, and unknown people coming in, okay, flag. Be behavior, something coming with something and dropping it on site, yes, flag. Some new super friend out of nowhere with someone of the some of the employee, why. And that means that it depends of the security culture of the organization as well, because we speak a lot about the human factor. In the end, system serves humans. So if you want to get to the system, you have to get through humans, unless it's obviously a low-hanging fruit, it's exposed and there is a stupid vulnerability and you run autosploit and you get in. But again, it depends of the objective. If you want to be quiet and you don't want to be caught, or if the goal is to get the flag or the target and you don't care if it's noisy after, it really will affect the way you get in. Because, if you want a safe that it's hidden at that floor, man, one day you go with a bulldozer, you blow the door, you get the safe, you run away. Who cares? As long as you have the safe.
Yeah.
So it depends.
So we talked many from the offensive side, and as you mentioned, let's look to this topic from the defensive side. So I guess the defensive teams and the defensive guys are so stressful and challenging today, based on this involving the attacks, techniques, tactics, or other things. So if they flag all the anomalies in the network, so how they should work well and ensure this, for example, the product from the AWS or Netflix are working well without any lag or other things. So when we implementing more and more security protocols and strategies, it's losing the user experience or speeds, and how should they making this balance between them?
Yeah. So that's always a challenging, because, as you said, security is always bringing friction into the business operation. So two things. First of all, you got the best practice to put in place. Apply all the recommendation, the controls. You spoke about AWS, where this is the same in Azure. You get all the security wizard stuff that analyze your configuration and give you recommendations. So first, the baseline is right implementation of the service and right controls. The second thing I was speaking about that in regard to inventory, know what you have, but it also involves the visibility in the stack. Visibility in the stack when you are in the cloud. This is easier than when you are not in the cloud. I hate the cloud, but this is a fact. You can have any service coming with the logs. You have CloudTrails on the side, CloudWatch, and stuff like that. And you can plug tools that will run detection and response and use actually, I'm going to use the buzzword crap AI, but let's say automated detection and response that will flag any anomaly in regard to the baseline behavior. So that's one thing. And
Yeah.
so what the SOC is watching, the Security Operations Center, as anomalies, and they have to assess the famous triage and sort what's nasty, what's not. So, and that's not the first thing, because when you get the best practice in place, you got the proper visibility in place, then you can focus on what's the extra thing that should not happen. And we fall back in the known unknown, like what are the employee doing? Do we have some bring your own device in the place? Do we have some unauthenticated? Do we have a missing control that did allow a behavior to be abusive? We can have like data leak prevention tools that will detect that data is not following the governance things. But as I speak about that, you realize that this is only applicable to very high maturity levels, like company that have everything in place with proper policies, proper control, and a well designed security plan. That's only applicable. I mean, if you get to face a pen test or an attacker or something like that, the only way you reach that level is to have something right in place. Now,
Uh,
yes, go
uh,
ahead.
Based on your talks, nowadays the some of the most good things happening in the companies and the organizations are implementing the pen tests and the red teams. So, as you know, in about 2010s or 2011s, about that years, the red teams and the red team operations are flagged into cyber criminal or just an offensive attack from the outside. But with progressing and in this 2024, uh, we are seeing that the most companies and the organizations are implementing the red teams and also using some C2 frameworks that Metasploit and Backtrack or Kali Linux about 2000 200 about I guess 2009 or 2010. The first Metasploit or Kali Linux are coming out and getting more popular between offensive guys. And now today's we are seeing the Cobalt Strike or BC4 and other frameworks that are some commercial frameworks are used by red teamers. So about these red teams, based on your opinion, how red teamers go far in the social engineering part?
Well, it's a matter of what's the goal and the scope of the work of the red team. So first two things, you have an engagement later as a red team, and you are paid to do and to verify, validate the security control of one thing. That's one thing. Or the second work that red team do sometimes is a bounty program as well, something we cannot rule out. And also it falls under red team work, but it's just not the same kind of engagement. So how does that work in the red team, and what are the limitations and strategies? Um, Again, this is about the contractual engagement and the scope of the work and the scope of the security control you want to apply. Most of the time, what we see from organization is a compliance requirement that the security control are validated. So basically, the work of the red team is to make sure that the company has proper control implemented and that they actually spot anything that they may have missed in the security implementation to enhance the posture. Because the result of a red team is not the destruction, the goal is not the destruction of the target, is to actually highlight mistakes, bad implementation, errors, or vulnerability that remain out of the best practice, out of the goodwill of the organization. So, and sometimes the control, we have many controls in security, like administrative, technical control, operational controls. And the red teamer usually first work on technical controls. They see if there is vulnerability, they see if there is exploit, they see if there is an error in the implementation. But if they can't find anything that is exposed, they can raise to the next thing, which is analyzing the process, the document, the way the company behave, and see if you can hijack one of these process. And ultimately, you go against the policies when you target people with social engineering. So that's three levers. And the one is the low hanging fruit. The one, and also we cannot rule out the 0 days. I want to plug that there, because if you have a red team and you had access to some kind of yet unknown exploit, because some are floating around dark web, research forum and stuff, and tool out of the regular toolbox. And if you have these, obviously the organization cannot defend against this specific threat, yet the risk reduction and impact reduction strategy from a layered security should still apply. That means that you get there, you manage to get the exploit, but the impact of what you reach should be limited to the scope of that risk level of the target. So somehow, yeah, you may breach something, but what you win getting there might be limited. And how you can limit that is either you have a cluster of risk operation and capability or workloads that work together and are a proper segmentation, logical, technical. And then when the attacker is in it, like through the so-called initial access, and they try to move laterally or do anything inside, it will most likely trigger another alarm or noise or something that will, trigger detection and an actual containment of the incident. And that's, I think, the ultimate goal for an organization is to have proper visibility, detect soon enough, and basically shut up the attack before it get a chance to grow within the systems. So I mean, I kind of switched the red team question to the blue team one because that's the defense approach. But that's the idea. The red team. I mean, I don't know if that answer the question or if you want me to go more on the path or another one.
uh Let me some tell about an experience we faced in the most companies we worked in. So before we start the red teaming, we are just making a checklist and sorting the phasing of attacks we want to test in the company or the system instance and etc. And so we're starting enumeration and other things and getting initial accesses. So after that initial access we got, if we are facing with some EDR or the very secure protocol or strategy is implemented in that system, we just don't use the other techniques or the advanced process injection and etc. We are just easily get back to social engineering and try to convince that the user behind that system to shut down that strategy or EDR. So after he shutting down that system, easily we can lateral movement more and more into system. And I want to mention that the social engineering in the all phases of the red team is the main key. You can use this key everywhere you want or everywhere you stuck in the red team. But for social engineering, as my opinion and as my thought, uh, I think we should have some boundaries about just harming or just treating some people. We should not do this because we are just testing some technical vulnerabilities or the other things in that company. But this is for the red team, and the red team is just a business that some companies or some teams offering to the other companies and organizations. But if we look to this topic from the I don't know, the bad guys in this game, uh, they they just use anything and any threat to just convince some people in that company to use it. Maybe I don't know, by asserting that family of that people or trading the person and other things.
Yeah, the point is you speak about the red team limits, that should be ethical, but the attacker is not ethical. So if you want to have a real test of the security control and assess the boundaries, then the red team should be granted the right to use the same levers as the attacker. Now, it depends if it's a routine verification. If the scope is an application for compliance, then this is not the case. If the reason is really like, I don't know, you have national security matters, then for sure the red team operation should have no boundaries for that, because the attacker will have no limit on that as well. And if it's high stake target, then you should not have limitation either. So that's one thing. Obviously, the security level and the connectivity and the attack surface that you can exploit should be limited. And I mean, I don't see like regular red team organization being hired for a large scope exercise, if we can call so, on national security matters. I
Yeah.
believe I'd see that the security protocol that are designed at state level, I'm not speaking only about the US or Canada or anything, any country, the threat modeling should be done according to the government strategy. The government would use threat intelligence on that, and I believe they would use their own internal resources to do the red team operation on this. Yet, it's a good practice to use different red team and an external pair of eyes on the security assessment, because once you've been one time and you did the reconnaissance, the study, the analysis of the target, well, you do not have the fresh eye anymore. So when I see organization, I always tell them, if you have a pen testing company, use them 1 year, and the other year use another one, and then get back to your first guys, and and do a rotation like that, because there is the habits of people, and now some company have best practices. Yeah, we have team 1, team 2, team 3, and this is not the same team that target the organization as well. So that's one thing. Now, the risk, the stakes will define the boundaries of the team. We saw in the news, once a couple of years ago, one company was hired to test the security of a building. They did break in a federal building and they got sent to jail, if you remember that stuff. So, so the red team company, despite all the contractual agreement, should know the boundaries of the law as well, and should behave accordingly, because you said it's a business. So the business, despite all the engagement, the knowledge and tech, should not be put against the law. It doesn't mean that you can't explain the scenario that you could have exploited as an advisor, but in reality, in the practical exercise of doing it, you might have some boundary due to the legal limitation. That would be a recommendation, because you don't want to add to an in jail or face a lawsuit against a government because boss number 1 wanted the test, but the boss number 2 above the boss number 1 didn't agree with it, and then whatever the one said is totally just vanished, and you're just in it. So that's something they don't want to do. But that would be strategical risk management for the pen testing company.
Yeah, the agreements and the law parts is the most important part in the contract of red teaming. So let's have an other question. As an director of security and who has very years experience in this field, uh, how do you view about the importance of certifications? Like CEH, OSCP, or the red team certifications from the many companies, Zero Point Security or Altered Security and other things. Uh, in today's offensive security landscape, have you
Yes.
view about it?
So, fact is, you can have excellent, skilled people without certification. That's the reality. And most, self-taught people that really get it might not have the certification. Now, it's a business perspective that you have to consider. And I'm a person who did grow his career without any certification up to the ISO 27001, 27001. That was like 3 years ago. So I was already past 40. And my employer back then was a company that did value that, because they wanted us for insurance requirement, compliance requirement, and liability reduction with the customers and partners thing. So what happening is, what is driving the certification is, it's a quick stamp for HR to pick the people. And if the guy has the certification, that means that the technical checkbox that an HR person could not assess themselves is going to be pre-checked. So that's going to help to pass that filter. You may not have the super gem or the finest one that missed the certification, that's for sure. But then it's a matter of knowing the people as well in the field and mouth to ear discussion. So that guy is really good. You should check it, and maybe then get the certification as well. It's a good thing, the certification, but it's not everything. And also, the certification is only validating a piece of knowledge that are about the known thing. And as I was referring to in this discussion, you got the known unknown that cannot exist in a certification,
Yeah.
and the unknown unknown, which require more than a certification. You need creativity, you need thinking, you need deep understanding of the system, you need business understanding, and way more than just the certification to be an accurate advisor or strategical person in a team and drive the initiative. So for compliance, for formal stuff, the certification is needed. If you have the skill and the organization is willing to pay you for that, then you should take it. Do I think a certification make anything more for the person? No. Maybe knowing how to phrase things. If you study the CSSP, you learn how to use some word like mean time to repair, the usual wording that you would have to speak to the business and that the CIO would expect in the way you explain yourself or you explain the business implication of the security side of things. But aside from that, if you need something who is able to send a payload, wrap it into a multiple shell egg and send it, and then wrap it on the customer with an auto execution using the existing tool of the land, then that person may not need that certification to achieve that. So it's just a mix of words that you have to go with. And also, I don't know about you, but people that are usually extremely technical, extremely good and focused on what they do, they sometimes lack the social ability to speak business to the organizations, like very, very technical people. So you need these extremely technical people that might hold easily the certification. And then you need people to translate their way of doing, thinking, and understanding to the actual business. So it's not only, these one man or woman has many hats that can do all of it are not very often found on the market. So yeah, voilà. Complex answer word to a simple question. I'm sorry for that.
Yeah. No, that's very well explanation for that. So, continue to this question. The next question. As an again director of security, if you want to interview with some guys who has just about an 1 or 2 year experience and want to join into your team as an apprentice, or the entry level red team and others, uh, what the soft skills and the hard skills means the both sides, uh, which skills they should have for applying for this job and making this 100% acceptable.
So there is no 100%, some gem are hidden in a shell. But
Yeah.
uh, first of all, I think there are many factors to consider. If you want to ramp up someone, it's a matter. I've been hiring many people in my career, and first was the gut. You and I can explain that. First, the HR will do the basic checks,
Yeah.
knowledge, skills, and stuff. Okay, so they bring people on the table, and you meet them. And obviously, there is a ramp up delay in the company, which requires mentorship from the existing team to help the person get into the organization. And, shoulder stuff, just ghost existing people, even if you like the resource, to learn how it works in the organization. Now, picking the right person is also a matter of, I'm sorry, but this is a human thing. You get along or you don't get
Yeah.
along. You have a team, you have a mindset. And I don't like the bro culture. It doesn't have to be like a dumb thing, but it has to be a fit into the team and has to share the same goal and the understanding of it. The second factor, if you're a service provider, like a pen testing company or MSSP or anyone that interact with the customer or partners or even many people around, they need to have communication skills. And that depends of the role you put them in. But if you're a service provider, and I think we are all in the security world, because we all provide explanation service, and we need to translate technical things and KPIs that are very technical to business people, because we want to buy in from them. We need people that are able to translate these needs and properly understand. And finally, the person who wants that role must have analytical skills. That means that they can guess, understand, and perceive the situation, like situational awareness, understanding why and what the people around expect, and they should be able to do it quickly. Because the same thing happens when you do a reconnaissance in a system. You have to quickly understand where you land, what's around, and what are your options. So analytical capabilities is a key asset for many jobs, unless this is a job where you follow the procedure and you just repeat all the same time all day. But if you work in a dynamic environment, which is security assessment or anything like that, you need to have some strong analytical skills. That would be my take on that.
Very well. I asked this question because many of these guys that are coming and asking this question, what certifications do we need, and also what the experience and the skills nowadays is the trend for the companies and they needing. Because I think this question is coming from that. About 5 or 6 years ago, if we looked at some job descriptions, they just needed for the only web pen tester or network pen tester and other things. But nowadays, the jobs in their descriptions is uh, specifically in the qualifications, they just mentioning this, that who applying for this job should have some I don't know, the knowledge about web pen test, knowledge about Active Directory, knowledge about the networking pen test, lateral movements, and other things. All in all, they need someone like the baby Superman that know a little things from the every side. What do you think about that? Why companies nowadays just hiring people like this?
So obviously, they want the best bang for the bucks. So they want someone who can do anything and everything, because depending on the contracts, they want their people, their staff, to be able to answer any need in relation to the job. So that's one thing. So what are the skills? I guess you speak about working in pen testing or security assessment. You want people ideally with a good understanding of the systems, network, and overall evolution of technology. Because, I spoke about that again before. Situational awareness is helping understanding things, how they work. And situational awareness, it can be like a very small scope where you're targeting a system, you're in discussion, but it's also needed in the marketplace. You need to be aware of the trend. You need to be able to understand the threat intelligence, where you behave, what's the scope, to remain relevant for the customer and the service provider. So you have to be accurate. If you know that certain country is developing certain capabilities, or the evolution of technology is bringing a challenging thing ahead, like, quantum computing. Like, everybody is about post-quantum encryption, and everybody is selling right now quantum-proof encryption, all right? So a pen tester or someone working in security should be aware of that, and they should understand that the threat is already existing on the past data. Anything that has been copied before will be decrypted in the future. So it's not enough to change the security protocol right now. And this kind of understanding is needed to remain relevant. And it will help the person to answer the technical people, the strategical people, the business people. And in case of incident, or if you get attacked about your reputation, about your work, because that's what's happening sometimes. You do a pen test, you assess, and later on another company came behind and they're proud of saying, look, they didn't even catch that. I don't know if you saw that. I saw that many times. And I think and this is why I was speaking. We need many, different team and provider with different pair of eyes, because no one can actually do 100% of all of it. So we have to be versatile. We have to be aware of the thing. We have to be strategically helping the thinking. But it doesn't. I mean, we just should not disappear when we are done with the work and leave the customer feeling, they did it all. No, we need to give them the ability to think and understand and help them on that. Basically, we trigger discussion, we trigger reflection, and I think that the person that joined the team should understand that they are a trigger. They are teaching the men how to fish, and they are not giving them fish. If you see what I mean, the
Yeah.
saying, teach them to fish, they will have food for life. Give them fish, they will have food for a day. So the idea is elevate, bring, and learn from others. So these are complex profile because a lot of people are extremely technical. They know their crap very well, but this is very narrow knowledge and dedicated, which is difficult to apply to a growing company, to a role that are requiring to be under many situations. You spoke about application, web application security testing, and then you need people about security testing. I think in the organization now they want people that can do it all, and if they cannot do it all, they should have enough analytical skill to be able to learn on the go with the team to expand their knowledge, and they should not be stubborn about the knowledge. And I saw many people that are very focused on what they know and what they do is their specialty, but they don't want to work in something else. And that's something that sometimes may be blocking the career advancement or opportunities for them as well. So voila.
Yeah.
I hope that answered the question again.
Yeah.
Very, very open answer.
So, that was very good explanation for who want to enter to this field and going to apply for this job. Let's get more deeper in the dark layer of this offensive security. With the AI evolving, rapidly, could we see the future where AI becoming the real threats for companies when it's used by the bad guys?
So that's raising so many questions and so many possibilities right now. AI right now is a tool. Okay, it's a tool. You have prompt engineers. They type requests and the thing does. Right. And you were asking, will it help attackers? It's already helping attackers, but the same way as a tool. I mean, you have a crowbar and you want to force a door of a car, and the crowbar can really help if you change the rotor of the braking system. Do you want to pull them out? And the crowbar is going to help you pull it out. So that's a great tool. And you ask me, can the crowbar be used for nefarious purpose? Yeah, sure. It can open the door in force. So yes, it can. The same thing with AI. Now, the AI topic is quite complex because it's being involved in automation, and companies hope that they will replace humans for automating processes. And basically, the threat is not as much as attacker can use AI as a tool, but more how can AI expand the attack surface of the organization implementing AI? That's more of the question, Like you implement it, we saw like data poisoning, we saw like prompt abuse, allowing to leak data that
Yeah,
the
from
AI,
injection.
exact prompt injection, all that thing. So it's at the same time a tool and a vulnerability. So we basically expand a reality of security in a whole new world. And so, yes, it will be used by attackers in many ways. It's gonna come, obviously, people with DLP, data leak prevention, will just go and jump on AI to make sure that thing is kind of contained, and a whole pile of service. Question is, what problem is AI solving when you implement it? And what problem is it bringing when you implement it? And if the result, the ROI, is like negative, this is something that you may want to avoid. We are not going to avoid AI, but it's just a matter of shifting the reality of your attack surface, and it's happening. So And in regard to attackers, yeah, they use it for targeted emails, automation of spamming, phishing, interaction, hijacking, payload. Even some do fork malwares with it because it can rewrite code from what it read on the side, and basically any signature-based detection is no longer working when AI rewrite the stuff, and it can help even the non-developer or the lazy ones that want to affect the behavior, like make sure you create a binary that will use that amount of RAM that will be similar to that binary, blah blah blah, and it will create a code that will have something that was really complex to write before. And if you use it smart enough, you can really have some bad thing that will be hard to detect on the target system as a payload or as an exploit, or anything you can think about. So it's kind of expanding and accelerating, but again, it doesn't change the approach on the security side. Assess the risk, detection and response, visibility, and clustering, segmenting your networks by risk level should actually reduce the likelihood of an exploit from AI. But what is going to happen is AI automated attacks will definitely kill any organization that had been static in their security posture, hoping that their flat network with bare security will help against that tool. And it's not magical. I'm not like using fear and all. It's very practical. It's new malware created from it will eat hard organization that didn't prepare for such things. That's it. This is very practical.
Uh, so for this AI, I think we have two sides of that. One is for offensive, and the other part is for defensive. I think nowadays and for the recent years that we going to touch it, the AI is would more helpful for the defensive guys and the blue guys more than the offensive guys because AI and the ML, it's better to say ML, can easily and super speed learning for making a treat model or defensive against some attacks and getting immediately signature and testing it and get back to answer. I think it's more challenging for the offensive guys to fight with this AI and MLs because for the past years they just like if we just simulate this war, the offensive guys just fighting with blue guys and they interaction and the speed of the interaction in their attacks. But nowadays we can see Microsoft has implementing very good premise some privacies and tools like IDF, MDF, and other things that are really effective for getting some attacks and giving some signatures and then defeat against some attacks.
Yeah, yeah, true. I mean, first of all, the as you were saying, the defense in the analytical capability. This is amazing because AI, due to the machine learning first, can establish quickly a behavioral baseline of the systems and detect anomalies, and can even project the detection of anomalies in the system. So it's very good at the defensive side because it will spot anomalies, wrong behaviors, and raise an alarm faster than anything else, especially if it's real time. So you need computation capabilities, but this is what it is. You spoke about Microsoft using it at scale for sure. They use the telemetry of system worldwide to collect baselines and use that as a detection and detect behavior of corrupted systems. And they could quickly scale that thing up at the whole machine that run their defense solution and use it to detect attacks. So yes, it's helping attackers, but I don't think you use AI and ML the same way on the defense side, which is more like behavior analytics and baseline shift detection, and the way you exploit it toward attacks. Um, you will need. I mean, I don't see the machine, the AI, taking over and creating a virus by itself and taking down the system. That's not yet going to happen. I see it as a kind of a steroid for Red Team, helping build and react quickly in the approach of the attacks. So yes, the detection and response will be really, really fast, while the attack will remain slow. But what we see in the field, I think you see it as well, successful attack, unless it's an obvious vulnerability, it's not happening in a day or quickly. It's always a long run thing. It's about persistence in the systems, analysis, understanding, and basically mimicking user behavior to avoid detection at all, and then get whatever lever in the system to get to the target you need to. And that AI is not gonna really help on that side at the beginning, I think. And also because if you want to have machine learning, you need a big data collection. If you need the big data collection, this is a lot of noise. If you
Yeah.
use like a persistent system, you have a backdoor malware, anything, command and control client on the machine, and it starts to pull data for a machine learning model to be applied to the system, that's going to be triggering a lot of alerts. So it's not going to help on that way. I agree.
I think for that reason, should many of the companies should migrate to the cloud and based on AWS or Azure and other things because the if we want to count the data of some a little company against Microsoft in just one day or half a day getting many datas from the I don't know phishing attacks, brute forcings, new techniques for process injections, trying to impersonate the credentials and other things. And in this scale, the scale of Microsoft, for example, they can easily train the machine and the machine learning against some little business.
Yeah, they have the capability for sure, but what's the key? What's cybersecurity for at first? It's about protecting data. It's about
Yeah.
confidentiality, integrity, availability. Okay, so if you lose confidentiality, there is no you failed. And when you put
Ah,
yeah, if you lose confidentiality, you failed. So when you push your data in public cloud, despite all what it brings, it's cute, I agree with everything you said, but you lose confidentiality right away. So
so,
what's the point? You see what I mean?
But this two side have some their pros and cons
Yeah.
because in that cloud-based infrastructures they can easily detect these attacks
Yes.
or responses
Yeah.
so fast. But in that traditional way, that company just prefer to not migrating to cloud and using its own infrastructure
Yeah.
and servers and other things. Yeah, for confidential, it's the best option for them
Yeah.
because the data in their hands.
Yeah, and you can still have the benefit of the distributed detection and response because you don't have to give away your data to have the benefit of the automation and cloud detection. After all, if you see and look at many XDRs or any endpoint protection solution on the market, they all gather metadata, but not the data itself, metadata, and they do correlation at scale. They can even process the data in the cloud, real time, and they bring some of the same capability on the endpoint that you would have in the cloud. You don't have all the logs and the interaction and the same IO analysis, but you still can have a good security on that without jeopardizing the whole thing. And there is also a cost consideration in it. That again, it's a pro and cons. Um, Businesses work as a contract with contractual agreements, so no one in a business want to engage its own life on something, which means that if they want to buy peace of mind, they're just going to follow the herd, follow what everybody does, everybody cloud, and I've been there. If you tell to management, no, we are stronger than all these guys that go in the cloud and we keep our stuff this way, it's going to be very tough to explain the value proposition and why now, although common sense will show that the data protection, it's a matter of business vertical. What are you working in? If you are an industrial solution provider and you do not have R&D, you do not have a lot of intellectual property, and you just want operational capability, then maybe the cloud may make sense for you on a way. But again, if there is that shift, it comes with a lot of requirements as well on the security side of things, despite all the data collection, because you said it right. Microsoft or Amazon have the visibility on that, which they use to protect their own infrastructure, which they don't use to protect your infrastructure. If you want to protect your infrastructure, you have to pay extra to deploy tool, either theirs or third party, it doesn't matter, that will pull that data, that visibility, that operational capability, and use it for your stuff. So the same way you would have to pull the same thing that will pull the data on your own infrastructure in a way. So it's just more easy, well more integrated, API-based integration. It's already all. It's just a matter of risk assessment and business. I'm really aware that most organizations go to cloud, and there is another thing, and it joined what we were speaking before about hiring, the skills, knowledge, and capability of people. Business continuity, which is part of cybersecurity as well, needs that people, teams, and organizations can maintain the business operation over time. So if you build in a unified solution like AWS or Azure, you always are going to find a certified cloud engineer or anyone that will know or understand that you have, privilege and the identity management system. You got all the security control in place, and they will know and can take over. If you have a custom built anything, that's more challenging to find people that have the skills to understand. So that's also something to consider, aside of just the automation, the visibility. I know we shift the topic a little bit, but you ping me on the cloud side, and I'm known to be an anti-cloud, anti-public cloud person. And I mean, it's just a business decision. And I'm going to make it simple in the audience. I mean, we saw in the news that Amazon was selling copies of things under the brand Amazon Basics. If you look for a dehumidifier, I have one in my garage, and they sell it, I think 30% cheaper than the exact same stuff on the other one, because they have the contact in the factories and stuff like that. One can wonder if it's smart to put all your industrial, your intellectual property, your R&D in a cloud provider that has the ability to bypass you down to the manufacturing factories in China, because they have the contact there. So is it wise? Is it wise to give them all your cost, all your R&D, anything, and trust they will not look into it?
Absolutely not.
It's just, so that's risk management. And I'm a buyer. I buy stuff on Amazon all the time, and if Amazon Basic come with something 30% cheaper, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna go with it. So because this is my money, man, this is the family, we have to eat and stuff. So if you want to protect your business and you want to keep your IP and stuff like that, and it has to do with the red teaming and the security side of it. It's about data protection, business protection, and resilience over time. You need to assess where you put your data and who has access to it and what is this business doing. So that's something to keep in mind. But that's out of the red teaming. That's more like, but that's just risk assessment still.
Yeah. In the parentheses, the one of the most important reason I'm always advertising this Azure, because when companies migrating to the Azure infrastructure, they need to integrate it with some Microsoft services, and they switching they structure, they design to Windows, and it's really easily for our like red teamers to testing that vulnerabilities, and against some companies that they have the own infrastructure, or even they have own big data centers, because in the Azure and the Windows services, we can easily just testing them and exploit the vulnerabilities and get more advantage from that. So yeah, let's uh, we have a time and let's just finish it. Uh, the most challenging question for this webinar, as you may saw in this past week, we just saw the Fortinet got hacked and breached the huge data. For that, is this company having the lack in this open security? Meanwhile, it's the Fortinet just offering the security services to other companies.
So I mean, it's always sad and funny at the same time when you see a security company that breach at that scale. What happened in this case? We saw it. It was a third party cloud stuff
Yeah,
that leaked.
cloud stuff.
Again, that leaked. So it shows that the extent of the control that we can have, despite all the knowledge and stuff that we can do, is not going to be enough to stop and control everything. So I bet it did hurt the brand and everything. But it's a matter of risk reduction. And in their situation, what could they do? They had to share data with a partner third party. And it was basically, I think, a OneDrive that was wide open, something like that. And they were used to drop file in and out, which was involving R&D material, customer data, and all the stuff that we saw in the for 40 gig that leaked or something like that. So it's nasty, and it shows how bad and how quick the public cloud can lead to major impact on businesses. So is the question, do they have the technology to implement security control on the data? For sure. They claim to have zero trust control access. They could have implemented multi-factor, geofencing, conditional access on the target that you can have on Azure as well. But for I don't know which reason, it was not fully implemented, and there was one account hijack, if I remember well the case. Like one user account was taken over and did allow to basically access to everything that the user had access, which was basically the whole drive. So you spoke at the very beginning about friction between security and work and capability, operation and capability. That's an example. Would they have put the whole security controls in place? It would have been quite a pain for the person to authenticate on something that may have not been rate critical on the security side of things. It should have been, because there was PII, there was customer information in it, and it should have been rated. That's, again, governance issue. And you can see a pile of things that mixed together, which did lead to a bad situation. So what to say about that? What to say about that is the only data that you do not collect is the data that won't leak. That's one thing. Proper governance has to be in place, for sure. Now, if you want to scale up and people need service provider to work on their things, they have no option but sharing. So they must assume compromise. Could they have had a DLP process with a rule that say if someone tried to download more than X amount of data from a weird IP, could have been done? Yes. From practical standpoint, and if for anybody have been working in operation or IT operation, and when you get the call from the CFO that tells you we're gonna work with that, they need full access to that folder. Yeah, but the security, blah, blah, blah. No, they need access now. We pay them by the hour. It's super expensive. Damn, give them access, full access now. Yeah, but this is R&D data. You always ask me to have the segmentation control. No, this person is very important. They must have full access. I mean, we have all been through that situation. So again, it's business, and as many other people will forget and business will resume. The only thing is that for the people that are the real victim of the data leak, which is basically PII of people in organization that were in the leak, they should update their threat analysis, the way they have the security control, because this data will be used against them. So basically, the threat modeling, that was the word I was searching for, threat modeling, should be adjusted to the new reality about the amount of data that's out, and that will allow actually successful attacks against them. So yeah, challenging one. I don't know if you, I mean, if I answer the question right, if you want more something on the question you asked, but
Yeah, that's just enough for this answer, because uh, if Fortinet secure itself, it can't secure 100% that its third party partner,
yeah,
because as we know, the most uh, biggest and the most dangerous and the biggest attacks for this data leaks are coming from these third parties. As I remember, about 2010, the uh, Central Bank of America, USA, got breached, and it caused to breach into many other financial statements, and that financial I don't know, like college and part of its partners all got leaked by just and one third party from this central park.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the challenge. I think it's just will be solved by uh, the protocol like zero trust, but more secure and better, maybe introduced in future. I don't know. Yeah, we don't know about this.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, the way it works, the way system works. I think, like, the kind of the snapshot mode. When you take something, a picture, and it disappear, although it doesn't disappear in the cloud. But if the idea would be you have access to something, and when you're done with it, it just vanish to a vault. That would be a nice system. Just grant access based on the zero trust. Zero trust, basically using multi attributes to verify that
Yeah.
the request is validated. You do the work, you deliver your stuff, it goes back to a vault and doesn't still remain exposed. That might limit in the future the access. Basically, like virtualize the access to the work for the time it exists and then vanish. That would be something.
Yeah, and I think about this third parties. Uh, we don't know that third party always become a backdoor for the most secure companies in the world. So that I think this talking is enough for this webinar, and it's very useful for me and for other viewers. About 100, more than 100 viewers we had in this webinar, and hope see you soon in that other episodes with more challenging topics for the cybersecurity. And for the final question for this webinar, uh, what do you think about the future of cybersecurity? Does it completely face it with revolution, or we will face many breaches or not?
Oh, we will see a lot of breaches. We will see that growing until we are forced as a society to change. That's my take. I think it's going to get way worse before it gets way better. I just hope that the tipping point is not going to be critically destructive for all of us. That's just my hope.
Yeah. Uh, so thank you for coming and accepting invite to this webinar, and hope see you soon in that other episode. We will be in touch, and thank you for other viewers that uh, stay with us until now. Uh, hope you see you soon, and have a nice day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.